the people that use the park. And so I appreciate you'd just rather have that, but I'm just wondering if you're not inconvenienced, and that's we would like to try and achieve. If that is a solution that might work.
Well, of course it would work. It would work. I mean, the gate would be open. That would mean the lifeguard would contact Fred or whoever.
On a two-way.
Yep.
I'd have a security guy there within 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. If you could work with, let's try that and see if that's a solution. Please tell your friends also that are adversely affected.
Everybody at the beach.
Yeah.
Several people.
Sure, absolutely. And
Also, the North Gate, too.
pardon me?
The same thing happens at the North Gate.
Okay, then we'll.
People who come from that direction.
No, I think it's for
I think you want to announce it so that you wouldn't have to be word of mouth. If when they announce that it's closing, they could also announce that anybody at either gate who needed help should contact the lifeguard.
Yeah, but I want to be clear. I mean, I could use it with my kid and 2 kids and wife, but if I can also walk across the park. So I want to make sure it's for handicapped. Initially, I want it to be for people that are, the handicapped and the seniors. I don't want it for somebody.
How are they going to know?
Also, moms with the
stroller, you can't get out the
couple
first
let's see.
Can't get strollers.
5 years ago, I was on the beach, and that fellow Danny was at the beach, and I got locked on the beach. And there was a lawyer on the beach with his red wagon and his scooter, and he was fuming. He was just totally unacceptable. This can't happen anymore. I'm going to do something. And he came by the next day with a petition on the beach. Class action suit, he was calling it. Of course, it didn't cost him anything. He was a lawyer. And I told Raymond Skulke about it, and lo and behold, the problem was resolved immediately. South Gate was open. As long as the beach was open, South Gate was open. So this isn't something brand new.
Good. Well, let's try. I don't know if any commission members have anything to say, but Fred, if you think we can, I would like to work as we're suggesting, and we'll accommodate the people in your situation in that fashion.
The point we're making is we're just not going to take entrance at those times because we're not going to staff it with 2 people plus a security guard. So it's really just, it's open for exits, and people just need to communicate, if they want to exit. But we're not open for business on those certain, because of the low volume at those times of day, right?
Yeah, and that's basically what I tried to establish for whoever may need it. I can make an announcement to that effect, but I don't know if that's a good idea. But I can have a security guy there, just somebody comes up, he'll just open it.
Right.
And the security personnel that are at the gate are checking for bottles and other type of forbidden. Now, there was another issue she mentioned. Every year we grade the beach.
Well, okay, but I want to just, so I just want to stop on that issue. Sorry, Robin, did you?
I just had a question as a resident. The hours are stated the beach hours are stated, they're on signage everywhere, so I think that's confusing in general. If we're going to change the hours depending on what the traffic is on a certain day coming in and out, wouldn't it make more sense to just have one person in the booth rather than 2 people in the booth at those hours, so that you wouldn't have to go through what you're proposing?
Well, I think that's raising a separate issue. So we can take that up, and we should. And I don't know if we'll resolve that issue tonight. But it's certainly a fair question. So the question for those that couldn't hear, should we look at one person in the booth rather than 2 people in the booth? That's a fair question. We maybe take that up a little later. I just want to finish with Maureen's first question, which so that's the solution. Fred will implement. Maureen, if you could just tell your friends and people who are adversely affected, and we'll accommodate it in that fashion and make sure we do that. And Fred, in terms of the first issue, would you please talk then? I think that Maureen's point is that, and I know what you're talking about, because I can't get my gosh darn umbrella in on the Orchard Beach side of the beach, and I can get it. I brought a I thought I was going to be Mr. Popular on the beach because in Uruguay they've got this little sifter. You can stick it in and sift the sand out and put your umbrella in, which is an absolute. I think I've got to, if I corner on the market here, and I thought I was going to be Mr. Popular, but you're right. On the Orchard Stuff beachside, there was a bunch of rocks. I couldn't do that. Now, in the middle portion of the beach, I actually was able. Again, of course, at low tide, it's easier, and you need the wet sand. But could you just talk about the dispersion of sand?
Yeah, every year at the beginning of the season, we grade the beach and level it off so that you don't have a big drop to the water. One of the things that we did was we must have done, I think it's 6 truckloads. We had at least 6 truckloads of sand, nicer sand, moved over from the north end to the south end.
So from the Playland side to the Orchard Beach side.
And that was washed out by the first nor'easter that came here.
All right.
Now, what she's saying is absolutely true. The beach is rocky. We rake that beach 7 days a week. Our rake goes 2 feet into the ground, and we remove as many of the larger stones or pebbles that our rake will do. If I were to take a guesstimate, we need at least 100 tons of sand for the South Beach alone. That's approximately $6,000, $7,000 worth of sand to make it amicable for people to walk on. I see it when I look down on the beach every day, and it's just something that we would need to do probably at the beginning of a season. I mean, not that we can't do it now, but usually these things are washed out by a nor'easter. So that.
So if we even if we did it at the beginning of next season, if there's a nor'easter, do we lose that 6?
We wouldn't lose all of it. If we put 100 tons of sand there, that's a lot of sand. That would cover just south.
Right.
Bishop has come up with an idea, which we attempted to do by taking sand from the middle beach, where low tide you see the barrier, and we attempted to do some of that. Now we could try, instead of 6 truckloads, we could do 12 truckloads or 18 truckloads, but that would be sort of like a touch and go thing, and it might work. But I estimate we need at least 100 tons of clear white sand for the south, and I don't think that's a lot of money for 100 tons of sand. So that would have to more than likely be done at the beginning of a season, and we could do it next year easily. So that takes care of the sand issue. Now, if this board decides that we should do it this year, it's fine.
Well, I think for this year it's going to be, we'll talk to the rest of the board, but I think as we'll talk about finances, we're currently operating at a loss this year. We now have a 2% property tax cap, which in the city of Rye is $380,000 for the whole of the city, for everything that the city has to do. For the town of Rye, it's $8,000 because our budget's so small. So I think it's going to be difficult to do something this year. And my worry would be we'd spend the $6,000 or $7,000 this year, you get a northeaster over there, and then you haven't gained anything. So I think. But I think we should be thinking about it for next year. And I appreciate. I think it's a fair criticism that indeed is the status of the beach, and but it's not something we haven't been trying to address. It's just one of those things. Please, Mayor French.
Just for clarification, the beach doesn't close. Just lifeguards go off duty at 5 o'clock. The beach is still open.
Yeah.
Now I worked at a club. My wife worked at a club. It's the ebb and flow of how many people show up, and so. Our charge at the very beginning is for staff to manage these issues. Now, I've been to the park, and no one's been there, but we have 5 parking attendants sitting around playing Frisbee or hanging out because there's no one there. 3 people in each booth. Nobody's coming to the park. So let's manage the resources and the personnel and provide the service as you suggested. If people are exiting, they notify the lifeguard, security guard to let them out of the exit.
We are managing the personnel.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really, I think, our policy as a commission, not to set policy of necessarily who at what hours in which booth, but based on the ebb and flow of who's there.
Feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground, right.
Yeah.
Great. Please.
I just want to add something because thank you for your comment with respect to personnel and the fact that one person was watching. I also want to make sure, something was brought to my attention by somebody who is a non-resident who was charged resident rates for admission to the park. Now, it could have just been that one person, but when talked about how reasonable the park was and told me the amount of money, I said, excuse me? To this person who happens to be a non-resident. And sometimes it's very easy for those types of mistakes, but we have to reinforce the fact that they're resident and non-resident rates. I just need to bring that. And that may have been it's possible that that was one case, but clearly the amount that was charged was inaccurate. And we just have to reinforce that.
Yeah, we do that daily. Our supervisor goes from gate to gate to make sure that the younger personnel are doing what they should be doing. We have restructured the whole personnel in the park. We now have a supervisor that stays on top of the parking guys, tries to keep them moving at all times. We use them for cleaning the park, cleaning the beach. We use them when the cars begin to come in. They're scattered throughout. When we see them not scattered, we have 5 supervisors basically telling them to separate. So the whole structure of personnel in that park has been changed dramatically, even over last year. And we're seeing a lot of the results. We're getting a lot of compliments on many of the things we do. Helping people that need isn't new. For the last 3 years, if the north gate was closed and I've had neighbors there call me in the office, and I would send a security guy up there and just drive them in to the middle gate. I try to accommodate as best I can all the time. We're constantly helping out people that need help, and I don't know if you want me to go into it.
Well, it's terrific. Let me, I want off, I think we are tight for time, but I do want off for comments from the public. That's good, Fred, then we'll get your report in a second. Thank you so much. Other questions, comments from the public? Well, actually, maybe, if there's no more questions, comments from the public? No, we'll get you on the agenda, Susan, for sure, but let me, I'm sorry, I thought we were going to get Susan on the agenda formally. So we'll have you make a formal presentation. So when we get to the new business. And welcome, Commissioner Salnitra. Thank you so much. Yep, no problem. I understand you had an engagement that overran, so thank you so much. Okay, Fred, why don't you go on your report then? And we got about another hour left, so just if you keep it tight, and thanks again. No other questions from the council and the public?
I think that's great feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, and thank you for your feedback, Marina.
Yeah, we need to hear about these things.
Yep.
All of you should have gotten
absolutely.
the manager's report a week ago, which is what you requested 1 week ahead of time. I just would like to highlight a couple of things that have happened since then. If you go down to maintenance projects report, we had some maintenance problems with the golf carts and the sand rake. We've serviced both, and they're both back online, working well. This is Roman numeral 2 maintenance projects. All of the percentages up there are accurate for the month of June. And the power failure we had in the men's bathroom was corrected. We had a major, almost blowout of one of our lines going into the men's bathroom, and it affected Seaside Johnny. We had it corrected and replaced by the next day. So they only lost about 4 hours or 5 hours of business. As the month progressed, the algae in the pond got thicker. I'm not here to point fingers at anyone. There's a process that it has to go through. I've spoken to the fella that treated the pond. We're going to make sure that next year all of the information is sent out early. He's going to send a set to the town rooms. He's going to send a set to my house. Even though I'm not on payroll, I'll make sure that we get all those papers signed and get the process going. The pond has been treated. At least 75% of the pond had cleared up. I noticed today there's a little bit more coming, and we have another treatment due in the next few days. What the friends were talking about the air, about the oxygenation, I just found that out from the fellow that treated our pond, that there was such a thing. I was not aware there was. And if we were to do that and oxygenate the pond, we won't have the problem with the algae growth, according to the expert. Now, the aerators is another whole issue. The aerators started beginning to give us trouble. One of our motors went down, and another one had to be rebuilt. So we rebuilt one, and we purchased a new motor for the aerators. Then we found out that the ampage wasn't enough to keep both of them and the water flow going at the same time. We corrected that this week, but with the boosters for the ampage, we can only run 2 out of 3 of those things at any one time. So every problem brings with it another problem, or an exaggerated problem. But we did have the aerators going today.
Well, Fred, just in the interest of time, I'd just like to, you have a comprehensive report here. Let me ask the Commission if there's any questions for Fred on the report itself. Please.
I
Do we make these available on our website?
I thought it was really very comprehensive.
Sorry, excuse me, I just want to apologize, Mary Frank. Can we make sure can we put these on our website so they're available to the public? These park reports?
Sure.
Absolutely. We're going to be the most transparent government in New York State, and as a part of that commitment, we have a Ragtown Beach website, Ragtown Park website. I think Goldie decided to go to the concert tonight rather than come here. So I don't have to call Archie Bob Junkie. But can we get these reports on our website so can people see them?
3 pages probably go down half a page, but...
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
I do have, Fred, in the first paragraph, it was a very comprehensive and talked about different, percentage increases and permits, et cetera, which was helpful. But in the first paragraph, you talked about that there were some problems with the cashier computers malfunctioning. Can you explain the extent of that and how long the duration of that? And exactly, the cashiers, at least at this point, it's pivotal.
Early in the season, we had a problem with the computers because of what's the word here? They're wireless computers, so you have these antennas that shoot the information. We had to replace 2 of them, and they went down for a few days, so we had to do everything by hand until our consultant could come here, put up 2 new antennas, and for the most part, they've been working pretty well since then.
Were they down on weekends as well?
They were down for at least 3 days, and I don't know if it covered a weekend. Terry would have that information, but she's took a couple of days for vacation. But they're all working well now, and our system is fine. What we did do this year, and it should be in this report, was we put in a wireless camera system where we can access this system from anywhere. In fact, our security chief accessed it from upstate New York, and we can watch all 3 booths and the time card punch-in area by our own computers, and they're in color, and the expense was like minimal. It was like $700 or $800 or something. And so what we do have is multiple eyes on every cashier, every one of our...
Is it North Beach on that?
The only thing is North Beach because we don't have a camera up there. Now, if we expand the camera system, we could have one up North Beach, and we could also keep an eye on the lifeguard shack by adding a couple more cameras, which would help us with the vandalism that goes on in the park late nights and early mornings. But right now, we have all 3, the parking, the south gate, the middle gate, which is our biggest gate, and our time clock, all under the eyes and supervision of of each supervisor and manager. And at different times, everyone's looking at it. Even Bishop could look at it from his office here in Portchester. So I think that we're slowly closing in on having the best system possible with the amount of money that we've spent to oversee all of this. And a lot of it has to do with the staff.
No, Fred, our automatic counter, we need to upgrade, correct?
The automatic counter needs to be upgraded.
That's in the road there, right?
That's
Yes.
the one in the road. Yeah. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. We had a person doing it by hand and comparing the two, and we were running into some problems with consistency. So the best thing we could do is continue our rotation. The system that Terry set up with the cashiers themselves punching, counting all their money first, writing it down, and then punching for totals has been working extremely well. I mean, we're pretty much on the money. I once said we're about 98, 99%. That's my estimate. So I think that with what we have and the situation we have, we're watching things as closely as we can. And I think that's, I don't know if Bill had any.
Well, let's just finish with your report, and then we'll have some questions for Bill. Any other questions for Fred?
Any questions, Leslie?
Please.
John, we finished?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah, let me just say, everywhere I go, people talk about how great the staff has been. It's orderly, the park is clean, everybody's professional, so congrats to all the staff. I was up in Cortlandt Manor. Who knew that was still in Westchester the other day, and they're talking about Rydtown Park. The wristbands, how is that going? Now, the reason for that is so when you leave the park, you have a wristband, or is that for reconciliation as well?
It's for two things. Before, we used to stamp somebody's hand. And we caught numerous clients doing this with the stamp, and then the second person would come in, and if our guy didn't catch that it was on backwards, we wouldn't catch them. And we had in the beginning of this year, we had at least 25 to 50 people jumping the fence at different areas. Our security chief now has shut that down almost completely. But the bands are once they go in, they can leave without having a problem getting back on the beach.
So you think it's effective then?
It's very
Have there been
effective.
complaints from
I wanted to do.
beachgoers? Have they complained about having a band on the beach?
Only some of the real sun lovers.
Okay. All right. Well, it's loose enough so they can adjust it, right?
They're actually, the beach band program has actually been so effective. The lifeguards love it. We
Okay.
have school groups that come in, and we will give them different bands, and the lifeguards can easily identify that these children actually belong with that school group
That's
or what
good.
have you. So it's been truly a blessing in terms of being able to maintain order on the
Perfect.
beach.
That's what I want to hear.
And people sneaking in.
Yeah, okay. The gates after midnight, we don't have to talk about a solution tonight, but it's got to get resolved as far as people parking after midnight and going into the park.
That's an ongoing problem.
Right.
And probably the biggest part of that problem are the pier restaurant.
Right.
They come park in our parking lot and they walk over to the pier. Our guys are looking to shut the park starting at 11 o'clock. They get everybody out of Seaside Johnny's. Sometimes there's only a few employees that are still cleaning up in there. But for the most part, we clear our park out except for this pier restaurant.
Well, if we're asking Maureen to leave at 3:30, I think we can ask other people to leave, at midnight or 11. Whatever you draw the line in the sand, I think we owe it to the residents to say that that's it.
I agree. I spoke to Johnny Ambrose about this. I asked him to make an announcement over at the pier because all it does is tie up our security guys with sometimes 20, 25 cars. And he had said he would. I'm not over at the pier, so I don't know if he announces it.
Well, let's make sure that happens.
But it's something
I looked at the lease today, and we've got some authority over what happens on our property in terms of prices, you name it. There are a lot of oversight that we have.
What happens what happens after midnight if...
They're locked in.
They're locked in. We lock it up and we move on.
We had a woman that got basically locked in, and next morning she tried to go down past the administration offices and down the steps I don't know what her problem was. She had a
Or I don't know if we can write parking
In the car.
tickets.
in the car. It was a little Honda Civic, but in the car.
Did she make it out or not?
No, she backed up. She did chip our steps a little. We filed a report with the RIPD. But
Talk to the commission, maybe we have to write parking tickets then. Okay.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. We need to come up with a solution, because I can imagine you coming out of a Pier restaurant.
Should be charging it.
11:59, and, somebody's going to try to ram that.
oh boy, there's steps in
Yeah, exactly, right.
Just the last point, I don't want to have to count cars. I don't think you have to count cars every day, but I think spot counting cars is a great exercise. A Wednesday, a Saturday, somebody independent outside of the people doing the job, physically counting cars that come in, and we can fudge factor 10% our, staff or whomever. But I think having
deliveries.
an independent counter would just, if anything, it creates a lot of accountability for all of us.
Yeah, one of the things that Bishop's been talking about is having, the arms there.
I think there's a solution there, Fred, but in the meantime, let's do it.
wanna get into
No, but Mayor, we'll talk about automated later, but let's do what Mayor French is suggesting. I know you guys have done this early in the season. Let's continue a random count, just to double check everything.
I'll do that.
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, I want to ask Mr. Lawyer. The other thing is, on the positives, the Friday social. I love this idea. I mean, there's so much more activity we can bring into the park, and I want to thank Mr. Lawyer also for all his hard work. How are our? I see we have an agenda coming up. We have a couple of movie nights. We have the concert series going. How's our Fridays at the Park series coming along? Would you come up?
Okay.
Just stay there for Fred, if you would as well.
Yes.
Yeah, just sit there.
This is the committee, the Rye Town Park, City of Rye's Advisory Committee, and it's in order to try to attract more people to the park. They've come up with ideas for activities, one of which is Fridays at 5s, where people would just get together on the beach. It wouldn't be like a group activity, but people just come in with their stuff and hang out and have fun. And they did one in June, and they're looking...
How did that go?
Well, the weather wasn't very good, unfortunately,
Okay.
so I don't think too many people showed up. This was one of those rainy days in June
Right.
that we suffered through.
Well, what's the next Friday at 5?
I think there's going to be one the second Friday, the Friday after Labor Day.
Well, we got As You Like It on Friday, August 5th.
Okay. I can talk about that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is the Portchester Arts Council sponsoring the Lawn Chair Theater Group, and they're putting on several presentations of Shakespeare's As You Like It. The very first one is going to be at Ryetown Park, and as far as I know, it's the first time there's been live Shakespeare in Ryetown Park. So if anybody wants to be part of the, you can say you were there when it all began, that would be the time to do it. But they're having it at 5:30 in the afternoon on a Friday because there's no lights, so they're going to have to do it in the daytime. And
So that's Friday, just for people on Friday, August 5th at 5:30.
And that's
Shakespeare in the
free to all
Park.
comers.
It's free to all
you have
comers.
to pay to park if you
Right.
come by car, and that would be $5 if you don't have a season permit. If you have a season permit, it would be free.
So you watch Shakespeare and then fireworks,
Yes.
and go just have a drink at Seaside Johnny's
And
afterwards.
get out before midnight.
So, well,
Ask a
it's
question, why it was decided to be done at 5:30 for people who may be working and not home?
Because of the time.
Because of the
Lights.
the lights.
It has to be done in the daytime. They are, thanks to the generosity of Ryetown Park, they have a sound system so that they won't have to shout their lines above the sounds of whatever else is going on. And they're going to be doing a rehearsal. If anybody wants to get a sneak preview, this Sunday the 31st, they're going to be doing an afternoon sort of walkthrough because they have to,
What time?
at 2 o'clock.
This Sunday,
No, the 31st.
31st.
Sunday
Weather permitting, of course.
July.
But that's the plan. They're going to map it out. If any of you ever seen As You Like It, the first part takes place in the court, and the second part takes place in the forest. So they're going to use a little pavilion as the court, and the forest will be the trees next to it. So it's sort of a creative use of what's already.
All right. Now you have 2 Friday at 5 events. What's the other Friday at 5
Well,
event?
that's up to I think they're the same event, basically. It's just
Okay.
people get together. It's very informal, but they are planning to have later in September an outdoor movie.
Great.
And they have a committee who's working on it. There's a company who apparently puts these things together that they would raise the money to pay for it, so that basically people, all they have to do is show up and watch the movie. And I think there was the Osborne is trying that up at Osborne. I don't know. I think that's coming up in August.